with the number of people out there who look at the Warriors, they look at the injuries, they look at the behavior, and they go, oh, what's the big deal? They'll be healthy. 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, they'll be healthy, and they'll run through everybody. Nobody can touch them.
Wait, I feel like I'm that person, but continue.
I'm like, I don't think you are. I mean, you've moved your meter. I mean, there's people that don't have
my meter, but I feel like they're going to be healthy, Rick. Are you telling me something else?
Okay, they might be healthy, but does that mean that they're not vulnerable to getting beat? Are you convinced they're winning another championship?
I'm pretty convinced.
Okay, then you are one of those people. You're annoying. You're annoying the hell out of me.
Who do you see topping them? I mean, let's start with the West here.
Well, see, that's the thing. This is the part that I understand. Is that you don't look out there and you say, oh, that's the team. That's the team that I think they're vulnerable to everybody. I don't think it's a matter of that there's one team out there that they have to be afraid of. I think they're not the same Warriors. And we're talking about a Warriors team. Like everybody's like, oh, they've gone to the finals the last 3 times. They won 2 out of 3. They could have won 3 out of 3. Yeah, you know what? And they could have not made the finals at all 2 years ago when they were down 3-1 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've had some miraculous things happen. They were up 3-1. And with Steph Curry compromised with a knee injury that wasn't as bad as this one, they ended up losing. I'm a little tired of the ignoring where they are and what has happened to this team and this presumption that everything's going to be fine. Let's just look at the circumstances. These are unusual circumstances. Their top 4 stars are all hurt at the same time. It is an interesting dynamic because there have been some holes poked into the initial report by ESPN as far as the timeline is concerned. Those who are supporters of Sean Miller and of the University of Arizona are immediately going, see, they got it wrong, couldn't have happened, didn't happen. All right, slow down on that. Because it so happens that if you go back and you look at Rick Pitino and you look at Louisville and you look at the player involved there, Brian Bowen, he was also mentioned as far as interest by Arizona. And there's $100,000 that supposedly they paid DeAndre Ayton. You know what the number was for Brian Bowen and his involvement with Louisville? It was $100,000. So I'm not ready to look at ESPN potentially legitimately having some flaws in their reporting as far as the timeline is considered as to when this happened, and throw out the whole idea that the University of Arizona basketball program wasn't looking to pay DeAndre Ayton to come to their school. And if that happened, then that falls on Sean Miller. He can say, as he said in the press conference today, in fact, do we have the Sean Miller and his statement? This wasn't a press conference. Let's be clear. When you have a press conference, you take questions.
On my sound sheet, it says Thursday press conference. Just so you know, Rick is rejecting that this was a press conference. I respectfully disagree with you. I think this is a press conference, even though he wasn't taking any questions.
No.
You call the press together, and unfortunately...
No. That's an announcement. A conference is you have a discussion. Conferring is you discuss something. There is an exchange. There was no exchange here. Not what he said. It's how he said it. If he had Instagrammed out there or tweeted, I hate not being out there with my guys, that's one thing. Which I think is the way the Philadelphia 76ers and Brett Brown are taking what he said. But that's not what he said. Or that's not what he wrote. He wrote, effing sick and tired of being babied. That's an accusation at the organization. And I don't know that it's necessarily what Joel meant to convey, like he's pissed off at the doctors that they won't let him play. But that's how I interpret that. And
because he feels fine, Rick. This is an orbital bone fracture. This isn't a knee or an ankle or something where you're coming back from it and there's still swelling and you're feeling the pain. I'm sure he feels like he can play his best game. The problem with this is when you get hit in that same spot, it can cause permanent damage. So they're taking precautionary measures based on that.
Sure. And that's understandable. There's understandable in him being 24 years old with his injury history, with the value that he has for the organization, the fact that they just signed him to a 35-page big money contract. Like, all of that makes sense. The approach that the 76ers are taking makes perfect sense. What Joel Embiid is saying is, I don't care. I want to play anyway. And it's like, okay, well, what part of this don't you get? Like, this is the smart way to go because of the risk involved. You're not being babied. We're being prudent. We're not, there's real risk involved here. And that's why the way he said it is juvenile. But now this is where he's drawing himself into a comparison with Kawhi Leonard, because by all indication, that's what Kawhi Leonard is doing. Kawhi Leonard is questioning the Spurs organization because they said he can play. Joel Embiid is kind of doing the same thing from the other side of the equation. He's saying, I'm questioning the organization because you say I can't play. But it's both are the same thing. You're questioning the medical soundness of your organization. This wistfulness, talking about Tiger, he's putting the pieces together, trying to take promise out of what he did. He shot a 69 on Sunday. It's coming together for him. And I'm thinking, stop already. He is, I don't know where he's ranked right now, but I think I can safely say, Jared is saying that he's moved up to 88th. Okay. There are 80, that means, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 87 other golfers who are better than him right now. Is that a fair guesstimate?
That is how math works, yes. Right.
Okay, thank you, Jared. So, as my son would say, facts.
87 plus 1. Good job.
87 players who are better than Tiger. We should not be talking about Tiger putting all the pieces together and his chances of winning a Master again or any of that until we have broken down the other 87 and their ability to win a major or to whatever, to put the pieces together. Because it's become ridiculous. Let's stop it. I'm colored by the fact that I believed this last week going into the tournament, and then we had Mark Lai from PGA Tour Radio who basically confirmed that he said he's not going to win this weekend. He doesn't have a chance. He's not Tiger of old. He's playing, which is great, and I'm good with that. I'm happy to see Tiger back, and I am interested to see how he does. But this constant tongue bathing of he's coming back, he's taking another step forward. Stop it already.
I think the question that we start the show with, Rick, is where is Melo going to end up? This frees him up now.
Yeah, I would. I mean, look, the Houston Rockets have expressed the most interest, so that seems like the natural place for him to go as far as opportunity. For the people that I've talked to in the league, the best place for him to go would be the LA Lakers and playing with LeBron James. Look, we saw that it worked with Chris Paul and James Harden, but I don't know that adding Carmelo Anthony, that there's just and the biggest part of this is, honestly, if Carmelo Anthony really wanted to be a factor, the best place for him in the league was the Oklahoma City Thunder. But he would have to accept playing power forward. He would have to get in better shape. He would have to accept that he's going to be more of a three-point threat than a post-up guy. He would have to accept that he has to play a different role. And just because he's leaving Oklahoma City doesn't mean that if he's going to be at his best, is he going to be the most valuable Carmelo Anthony he can be, that it's any different whether he goes to the Houston Rockets or the LA Lakers or any place else. But right now, all indications are that he winds up in Houston simply because they've been most overt in expressing their interest.
Of the teams that have expressed interest or he's expressed interest in going to that city, where could Carmelo get a starting job? Because I feel like that's been his biggest issue looking ahead to what's next for him, if it be the team, the role, etc. Not coming to grips that he's not the Carmelo of old. That, right, as you pointed out, he can still be effective in various roles, but those aren't necessarily roles that he wants to play. So while we're looking at best fits, if you're Carmelo Anthony and you do want to still start, where's that best fit?
Well, look, is it just start, or is it start on a quality team? He goes to the Lakers, he instantly starts. He's the second best player there. I mean, ability-wise, he's the second best player there to LeBron James. Now, it's considerable distance between the two, but nonetheless, he's the second most accomplished player. It also is a matter of, do you want to start at the 3? Do you want to start at the 4? And how good of a team do you want to play on? He could start. I mean, this is the problem that I have. If he's making his decision based on where he wants to start, then this isn't the Carmelo Anthony that you need if you're the Houston Rockets and you want to chase down the Golden State Warriors. It can't be, okay, I'm going to go where the role is what I want. It's, if you want to be part of a successful equation, it's, where can I go that I can have the greatest impact? And I'm going to allow the team to determine how I provide that impact.
There are several reports that Le'Veon Bell is threatening to sit out half of the season. I don't see that happening, but that's where he was heading into negotiations, maybe one last Hail Mary or a desperate attempt to get them, to scare them into that long-term deal, which didn't happen. I don't see him sitting out a game because it would cost him millions of dollars, Rick. Where he is right now, I think it would cost him somewhere around $7.2 million if he sat out half the season.
It's not as if he hasn't missed games before by his own hand. It just wasn't sitting out. It was being suspended. What I get is that Le'Veon and his agent are playing on the heartstrings. I'm not doing this for myself. I am not being selfish. I'd play for free. But I couldn't do that because I'm trying to set the standard for all the other running backs. I do not fault Le'Veon for attempting to get every single dollar that he can. The system, when it comes to the NFL, works against the players in a big way. I was trying to explain this to my son, how there's more opportunity to get injured or having a career-ending injury in football, and yet their contracts are the ones that are not guaranteed, and NBA players' contracts are for the extent of the contract. I don't buy any of their story. It is for me, and I also understand the Steelers. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't pay that for a running back. The position is interesting, Nicole, because in one respect, you have to have a running game. You have to have a quality running back. On the other hand, it is salary cap suicide if you overpay for that running back because they are so fragile, because the opportunity for them to have one injury and not be the same is so great. So I feel for Le'Veon Bell in wanting to get paid, and at the same time, I understand where the Steelers are, and it would be a mistake if they signed him up long term.
We start with Kawhi Leonard. And Danny Green. The San Antonio Spurs have traded them to the Raptors for DeMar DeRozan and Jacob Poeltl, also protected 2019 first-round pick. So it's official. I want to talk winners and losers. Do you think that both teams are winning, both players are winning in this trade, or do you think some are taking the L?
No, I think it's a great deal for both sides. This is what happens when you have two sides that know each other well and are not only have their own interests in mind, but the interests of the other side. It solves two problems, one for each team. Number one, the Toronto Raptors knew that they were not good enough to win the Eastern Conference. They're good enough to have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They weren't good enough to win the Eastern Conference. And I know there's a lot of people that might say, well, LeBron James was the thing that was standing in their way. They're honest about themselves. They look at it and say, look, we struggled to get past the Washington Wizards. What's the reality that we'd be able to get past Boston or Philadelphia? So they are now a better team with Kawhi Leonard than they were with DeMar DeRozan. And obviously we know with San Antonio, Nicole, that San Antonio needed to move Kawhi Leonard and that they wanted an all-star caliber player back in exchange. Mm-hmm. They get that. DeMar may not be worth the contract that he signed because he's making some $28 million. He makes more a year than Kawhi Leonard does. But nonetheless, they get a quality player back, and it gives them a chance to continue to be as competitive as they were last year, which was a playoff team.
Not like the Summer League didn't produce some pretty good players that we were watching. I like what I saw from Trae Young. I like what I saw from Grayson Allen.
Ooh, really?
I like what I saw from DeAndre Ayton. I thought these guys looked pretty good. Mo Bamba looked pretty good when they're outing against one another. So I've been paying attention. What about you?
I was there for a couple days.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
what did you see? Because you were actually in the gym smelling the action. What was going down?
I did not have the same impression of Trae Young that you did. I did not have the impression that people in the building had, which was, he struggled for a guy that was taken that high and was struggling as a result of size and everything else. People were a little down on him. I don't know if you saw. I tweeted from. I was in Salt Lake City for one of his games. They played Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks played both in the Salt Lake City Summer League as well in Las Vegas. Yeah. Yes, and Trey, they were taunting him with at one point, Luka for Luka Doncic, who the Hawks traded to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Trae Young and a future first-round pick. So I think he's going to be okay. I do believe that there's a lot of pressure on him. Wendell Carter from the Chicago Bulls was the guy who impressed me the most simply because at one point in his first game, Ante Zizic faked him out of his shoes about 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Wendell bit 3 times. And Zizic is not a guy where you go, well, of course, it's Zizic. No. It was, I thought, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And it was the way Wendell Carter responded. The next time a Laker came down, he swatted that into the 3rd row, and the next time Zizic went to the rim, he pinned it against the backboard. Pinned it, 2 hands, turned and went the other direction. I went, that's a guy who can play for me any day. He didn't care it's Summer League. He didn't care. It was, Zizic, you are not doing that to me. I was very, very impressed.
Guess what? It's a glorious day for Colts fans. He's throwing a football. Baby steps. Do you care that he's throwing a college-sized football right now? Does it matter to you? Because it doesn't matter to me.
What concerns me, though, is not that he's throwing a college football. What concerns me is that you are celebrating he's back. Mm-hmm. He threw between 20 and 25 throws. The clips that I saw, and I couldn't wait to see it, he didn't throw anything that was further than 15 yards. So, look, I hope that Andrew Luck is back because, for me, he is the best chance we have of seeing the next transcendent quarterback in the NFL. He was that good for dog dirt teams and dragging them to the playoffs. But where he is right now, he may feel it in his bones. I have to look at the fact that he didn't play a single game this past year. Until I see him throwing a regulation football and going through training camp and throwing, as to his heart's desire, a regulation NFL football, the Duke, then I'm going to hold my expectations rather low. I know what Kawhi is. I know what he's done. I know the ability, but the chemistry of teams cannot be undervalued. And he told, in that meeting, he told his teammates, look, I love you guys. I'm not sitting this out because of you. I don't like that guy, meaning Pop. And for all that, you weren't showing up for playoff games. You couldn't even sit on the bench. For what Boston has, and for the way those guys get to get along, considering that there's a lot of young guys competing to be stars, I don't know that I'm going to bring a Kawhi Leonard. I wouldn't have said this a year ago, but now I don't know that I want to risk that. I don't know that what I get from Kawhi is worth the gamble of what he might do to my team.